Welcome back to part 2 of our 30-year garden journey. Today, we will show the development of the front and side courtyard gardens with all the joys and challenges that came with it.
Concept drawings started with the driveway because at that time, the driveway that we had was quite narrow. So we changed the design to accommodate a parking spot for one car, while the other car having a clear passage to the garage. However, we wanted the driveway to transition into the landscape design. This idea encouraged me to work on some concept drawings, and that way I can see if these ideas that we were thinking of would work, because we really loved working with rocks and boulders, and we really wanted the driveway to blend in with the front yard.
Landscape, yeah.
An open green space.
Lots of curb appeal.
We hope.
Yeah, at the time.
So here are some of the early drawings and how that worked for us.
This is the result of the last concept drawing. I like how it sweeps around the garden and the curb and follows your eye line down around to the side of the house. Then we redesigned it with a fountain. In this design, we solved the problem of the parking of the two cars, with one off to the side here and the other one coming and going into the garage freely. By repurposing the bricks and the river rock, we were able to create a transition from the driveway onto the front yard garden. This is what it looks like today, complete with planters, garbage, and recycling.
At the bottom of the
driveway. I am so glad that we have shade at the front of the house, which faces the rising sun in the mornings. And those Kings and Cream maples took about 15 years. There is about 3 tons of river rock on the property, and each one of them have finally found a home, even under the tree.
We've used the river rocks throughout the garden beds to prevent erosion, in particularly with the island bed. But on the driveway, it was just for decorative purposes. I love the way the rocks look.
And we've moved them around lots of times, but this is it, we're done. The grass there was dug up last summer for the fiber optic cable. Then the inset is an older picture that show the challenges of owning a corner lot. One of the challenges of a corner lot is the salt in the snow that is turned over by the snowplow that kills the edge of the grass here.
To resolve some of the snow salt issue that we were having in the front yard, we designed and carved out a huge section of grass, and we raised the bed and added in a tree. I researched this tree, it's a Himalayan birch, and I took the risk that it is a tree susceptible to disease. It lasted maybe 5 years, but it did provide some shade, a well-needed shade in the front yard garden. And in this picture, it's gone. We still have parts of the birch tree that I use in my container display, but we really, really loved that birch tree and miss it dearly. However, what we wanted to do is to add more flowers into this bed, and as it grew up over 30 years, you can now really see the benefits of adding in a perennial.
It's come of its own. We've even got the ironworks in there.
Perennial gardens, perennial flowers that bloom and give you more blooming power throughout the summer months.
I think the rocks as a great border around, all the way around the garden bed there. And here the grass is disrupted from the cables that went in last summer.
Yes, and as this island bed developed, it's constantly changing. We added in some lavender last year, this is a perfect location for lavender. It's dry, it's sunny, it doesn't require a lot of water.
Looks like it's going to be a drift.
We're hoping it will be a wonderful lavender drift.
How long will that take? But next summer this year?
We will see. That's totally up to nature. We're going to see how they did over winter.
We have an underground soaker hose in this garden bed as well. Click on with the hose. Everything remains a little damp because it's full sun all day.
The grass, you've done a wonderful job in working on the grass. This is a sunny area, sunny location. So in my research of flowers to plant in such a sunny location are your rudbeckias and petunias. And this is a spring display of peonies and alliums and irises.
I found the super secret with grass was hen manure a couple of summers ago. It really helps out with the grass. This is more repairs from the salt. Yep.
It's constant. The city really helps out with that as well.
Who's that, I wonder?
And this is a very early picture of you wanted to take out as much of the grass as possible so you wouldn't have to work with it.
My Cleome. I love the Cleome.
From what I remember, you were just going to be the grass guy. You said
just a grass guy.
You were just going to be the grass guy.
Get me a lawnmower.
And so this is the spring changes that you have throughout the seasons with a lot of the nepitas in bloom, and then the summer. This is actually changes that's being made last summer in regards to very young lavenders being planted there in the front. So you've got a 360 view now of the front garden bed. Now, as I mentioned before, we wanted this area to be an open green space. No fence in the front yard. We kept the fence in the most private areas in the backyard.
Yeah, lots of grass to play with the kids when they were growing up.
We're looking at the variety of different hydrangeas that were planted on the north side of the house. It's the long border. It runs the entire length of the house. It provides a lot of shade in this area. In the early years, the backyard was so hot, we decided to design a courtyard or area that we could sit on the coolest side of the house while the sun was blazing in the backyard. The trees that were planted to this point, they were saplings. They did not provide any shade, and it would take quite some time before that happened. So we thought of creating a space on the north side of the house that would provide some kind of relief from the scorching sun in the backyard. So here we're looking at the courtyard that was designed for just that purpose. And look at it today, 30 years later, the small little cedar is now how tall?
35 feet.
35 feet tall. And it's still used as a place to relax. It's open to our neighbors. They can come over and get some flowers. I find great pleasure in picking a bouquet of peonies in the spring for our neighbors. And look at this.
Gorgeous. What's it called?
It's a magnolia.
Oh, right,
It's a Sorsa magnolia.
Yeah, right.
And this tree we bought when it was a little sapling. And as we now get into photographing the garden, which came many years later into the game, we can see the magnolia and the serviceberry providing beautiful shade as well as berries for the birds and blooms in the spring. The courtyard garden and the purpose has changed over the years. It's a wonderful area for plants that prefer part shade, but also some of the challenges are that there are a lot of plants that prefer
Full sun.
Full sun.
Like that privet on the right there.
the privet we struggled with for many years, and we decided to replace the privet on the right side of the page here with cedars. His cedars did very well in that area. So there have been many changes to this courtyard over the years. I make those changes in the fall, and I have found that that has worked quite well. There's a variety of plants like the lilies that will actually bloom in part shade. And again, we have some alliums that are mini alliums that are perennials. They will do very well in part shade. And so we were able to get away with the plantings of a green space instead of having a fence. Even some dahlias will grow nicely on this side of the border. And so it's really worked really well.
They sure are pretty. The 3 cedars planted next to the bench camouflage the air conditioner that's behind it. Can't even see it.
As well as the hose. The
Oh, and as well as the hose as well.
The retractable hose.
I love the ironworks that we had in previous videos there, up in the corner there.
That's the jewels in the garden. The ironworks.
All year round.
All year round interest.
The courtyard garden is much larger than it was originally. We wanted to accommodate the larger boulders you see on the perimeter and all the extra soil and plants. So it's really grown and expanded since we first started this area.
Looking like more of a natural landscape with rocks. Adding boulders to the landscape allowed for that natural look. I've been always inspired by the way the parks are designed in our town, and I wanted the garden to reflect that natural look, and so we kind of just placed the boulders there in that a half a moon, the shape of a half a moon on one side of the courtyard, and then a half a circle on the other side of the courtyard, and we're just like, okay, let's just see how this works. And then I discovered the creeping sedum that would fall, and creep along. And I really wanted to be inspired by the way nature looks naturally. So I wanted the plants to kind of develop a personality of its own, and then just see what happens.
And rocks are maintenance free.
Yeah, and I let them have their way. But the boulders weren't free.
No.
A matter of fact, they were delivered on a large pallet from the rock quarry. We spent a lot of years in the rock quarry.
That's what we do for dates.
But this is spring, one of the most favorite time of the year for us, and we have about 17 peonies in our borders. Peonies are long-lived in the garden. We have the Sarah Bernhardt peony that has been in the garden for 30 years.
With that, we'd all like to say thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't, and stay tuned for part 3.